Hi there, and welcome to the ATS podcast with me, Will Brown, and John Soulsby, where we break down chunks of health and fitness information into bite sized pieces, remove a bunch of the noise, and just leave what's relevant. Today, following what could possibly be the shortest podcast episode in Spotify history, on episode 42, we're on episode 43, and our topic for today is saunas. Um,
Yeah.
this is probably one we can get kind of into. It's not one I'm super familiar with, just I think so what do we know? Like saunas are pretty useful in weight class sports for cutting weight. A lot of people use them, and hot baths, hot showers,
Yep.
just anything to get you sweaty. And
Um, I remember James Hoffman before talking about they are beneficial for recovery as well, but only in short dosages. I think people traditionally use them for far too long for recovery,
mhm.
um, because at some point heat exposure is a thing.
Oh yes, and
Um,
dehydration, I suppose.
yeah, and yeah, that was part of it. So it was exposure in a sauna. I think he said for 10 to 15 minutes is fine, and anything more than that, you're starting to pushing into dehydration and eventually not heat exposure. It's maybe a bit extreme unless you're in there for like 40 minutes plus, but just heat stress, and that is something that does not like add to your recovery pool. We've used the analogy of like cups before. I think of like you start taking water away from your cup of, or no, we used it in filling a cup with water. So rather than like taking water away, it fills it again.
Mhm.
So you have less time for training and other recovery.
Okay. I'm just looking up.
Um,
I found some stuff regarding hot water immersion and recovery,
mm-hmm.
which again is close enough to saunas. Again, this is the thing
Very
is like
similar.
saunas. I'm always assuming that sauna is dry, right? Like dry heat, like wooden,
Yeah.
classic. Cause I don't like a sauna. I do like a steam room because the humidity is extremely high, and I typically tend to get on well with
Yep.
high humidity.
Interestingly, I was the same, and then recently I last went into a steam room and I was dying, but the sauna was great.
The
It was odd.
Yeah. So essentially, there's some evidence to show that short-term hot water immersion actually has a better impact on recovery than cold water immersion
Hmm.
or nothing, like passive.
Hmm.
And it was done at 15 minutes of hot or cold water immersion or rest, and heating the muscle. Yeah, study essentially found that heating the muscle prior to or following resistance training is more effective than cooling the muscle to promote recovery. However, it remains to be
I
seen if more practical methods of post-exercise heating can speed up recovery. So yeah, it's not
Yeah,
very well looked into. But
no.
what are these fucking infrared things that people are on? I've seen
Oh,
memes
so
kicking about.
I think it's just more cost effective and easier way of getting a sauna going. So like a sauna, obviously, like
Oh, okay.
you have to keep heated for
I
the
was about to say
entire
not in
day.
not in Cosy Lives. Absolutely
No,
not.
exactly. And like, yeah, you have to like it takes ages to heat up. Then you have to have it heated for the whole bloody day, and then like turn it off. Whereas I think an infrared one, I think you can just like turn on and then
Oh,
go
so it's essentially
go away.
getting like yeah, you're essentially getting like a lecky
Yeah,
sauna instead of a gas one.
essentially, yeah, I think so. Is my understanding of it. That might be completely wrong. Um,
That could be.
but then, so from a training point of view, for me personally, one of the benefits of the sauna is the whole like experience of the natural wood sauna in like a nice environment that is relaxing as well.
Mm.
I can't see an infrared one doing the same thing
Well,
for me.
I have found something of investigating the effects of a single infrared sauna session on post-exercise recovery, specifically of neuromuscular performance, autonomic nervous system function, and subjective sleep quality and muscle soreness. Basketball players performed two trials consisting of a complex resistance exercise program, maximal strength with plyometrics, followed by either 20 minutes passive recovery or infrared sauna at 43 degrees plus or minus 5.
Mm-hmm.
In an RCO, with trials separated by 1 week, recovery of neuromuscular performance was assessed using a 20-meter maximal sprint. It's not the best for neuromuscular, but sure. Um, Maximal counter movement jump and isometric leg press test performed 14 hours after exercise. Okay, cool. Heart rate variability, sleep diary, muscle soreness, and indirect muscle damage markers were measured pre and post exercise. And blah 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 blah. Post exercise nighttime HR and HRV did not differ following IRS or passive. Muscle soreness was less severe, and perceived recovery was higher after IRS compared to passive. Yeah, fair. Yeah, it might be a thing. I'm not entirely familiar with the benefits of the
No.
infrared. Like, I don't know what that has effect wise on muscle soreness. However, I feel like if you're in the position where you can buy an infrared sauna and it not be the biggest deal in the world, go for it, mate.
Yeah.
Like, or just use a
Or
communal one.
I think it's like easier for like a gym to put in. Like for us, an example, we could add like I mean, we're not going to, but we could, in theory, add like a small like room the same size as our toilet and have an infrared sauna in there.
Yeah,
Whereas there is
apparently you can get them.
0%,
Hmm.
like there's 0% chance of us adding an actual sauna just from a square meterage point of view.
You apparently get you can get some little portable guys that are like $200.
A portable infrared sauna.
Yeah, it just looks like one of those kind of fancy dog carriers, like where
Yeah,
their head pokes out at one end. Yeah, it looks like that,
yeah,
except like person sized.
that's funny. That's funny. That would look so funny.
You can actually get
Uh,
like a self-contained one for like grand and a half,
yeah. See, like far
1.6,
more
1.7.
like the cost of an actual sauna would be astronomical, and then running it.
Oh yeah, fuck
Not that
yeah.
an infrared one's going to be cheap, but it's going to be far better than that.
But yeah,
Um,
apparently could be a thing. Well, those fucking you can get one of those barrel saunas, like the ones that you see on like Airbnbs, like the fancy like
yeah,
glamping Instagram baby. They're only 3.8 grand. That's actually a lot cheaper than I thought it
that's
would be.
yeah, that is a lot cheaper. Um, but yeah, and I think there's a lot of like placebo to sauna, steam room sort of thing. Um,
Hmm.
and in general, there's been a ton of data about placebo effects and how powerful they are.
Yeah, I think
Um,
that's always going to be something that clouds stuff a bit. Is like
yeah,
folk that quite obviously know when they're getting the good stuff, like in a passive versus infrared sauna stuff. Like
hmm,
you obviously know when you're getting the infrared sauna and when you're getting fuck all, because it's literally
yeah,
like, cool, you've done the workout, go home, do the
yeah,
journal, write your scores. But then if you're doing it in like a with a washout period in the middle and then doing both groups, then both groups
hmm,
should hopefully significantly be better post sauna versus when
yeah,
both of them did post passive stuff. So they both know that they're getting the sauna, but even then it's
yeah,
still shit's hard.
yep. But then I suppose from an actual objective point of view, from a lot of point of view, it doesn't really matter if it's placebo or not. As in,
Yeah, if
does
it
it make a
works.
difference? Yeah, exactly. If it improves your performance, do you or I really care?
No.
No. Uh,
Yeah, if
it
you
improves
so yeah,
performance.
I think
Great.
in something like a summary, if you're someone who enjoys going to the sauna for social or enjoyable reasons, fine. Just be aware not to dehydrate yourself too much like prior to exercise.
Yeah,
Um, if you think it makes you feel better post exercise, 100% go for it. If you're
but
like
it's not.
if you're like Porty Baths doing like the hot rooms and then the big cold plunge at the end, go for it, mate. That always feels great. Nice to
Yeah,
get moving
but
around in the water and stuff.
but don't feel like you have to either. It's
Yeah,
not exactly a
I
game breaker.
yeah, it's probably not going to be the difference maker that something else is should like that something else will be something like sleep, nutritionally, even supplementation versus that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can't think of anything else to chat about saunas, steam rooms, both good. Infrared stuff, don't play with lasers.
no.
Yeah, cool. Right, we out.
Bye.